Here we are to part 2 of my video about Resident Evil Revelations and where it can go from here. This is part 2. If you have not seen part 1, which talks about Revelations 1, please go do so. Link is in the description. Go now. This is your last warning. This is a spoiler review as well as a spoiler basically for anything I talk about here. Let's go. So the Resident Evil Revelations 2 story has 5 main characters and one big problem. Claire Redfield, Barry and Moira Burton, Alex Wesker, Natalia, and there's this dude. I'll tell you about this dude later because he really is nothing. Literally, like nothing until he's something. So this story is in between Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6. It does not directly connect to Tricell. FBC, O'Brien isn't mentioned, or Morgan, like the T-Abyss virus is abandoned. No mention or sight of Ramon or Jessica. And with all that, we're off to a very bad start. So the story has 3 different perspectives. Only 2 are playable. And one part of one of those 2 are only playable through DLC that you have to buy. So the first part is Claire and Moira. Then 6 months after that is Barry and Natalia. And then the one that isn't playable is from Alex Wesker's perspective, which we barely get to see any of that. I wish we saw more of what Alex Wesker was doing, but I'll get to why she doesn't make sense in a bit. But they try to do that thing where they don't tell when things are happening to confuse the audience, but all it does is make me annoyed. Rather than having Claire be a member of the BSAA or something that we all know about, they create this random weak force called TerraSave, who had the bright idea to partner her up with Moira, who refuses to wield a weapon because of an incident that happened. That's actually Barry's fault, to be honest. I think she kills her sister Polly. She's not there and she's not talked about, so I'm only to guess that she freaking killed her sister with a gun when she was a child. And Moira turns into Chloe Price negative 2.0. I have more respect for Chloe Price because she at least is going to hold a gun. She's at least going to hold a gun. Moira is stupid and dumb. TerraSave already 0-1 for even hiring Moira, who will not hold a gun. But to have this unprotected gathering of senior officials, of course they're captured. Of course they're captured. And Claire's middle name at this point is Damsel. She's damselized again. They wake up with Fitbits on their arms, monitoring their fear level. Maybe their heart rate, but I don't understand how you can monitor someone's fear level, but whatever. Alex Wesker talks through them and calls herself the Overseer, which we learn that's a lie because she doesn't oversee anything. She does everything. She has no goons. She, like Wesker, the way they try to make her like Wesker but fail miserably, it just makes her look stupid. They always... Like, whoever's making these women characters, think women are so dumb. Please fire them. Please fire them. This makes no sense. Please fire them. Who is this person? They need to be fired. They need to find another job. They need to get another occupation. Whoever was behind Alex Wesker and everything that happened to her. And everything that she did. While on the island that they're on, freaking captured, they run into more TerraSave members, and I can't be bothered to remember a single one of their names. They become monsters when they get scared and whatnot, so yeah. And you know what? Let's talk about Alex Wesker. For some reason, Alex tells her test subjects that they're test subjects for the T-Phobos virus. Guess what? Women are used for nothing but exposition and eye candy. That is what Alex Wesker is. For those who don't know, Alex Wesker is the stolen orphaned sibling of Albert Wesker, who passed all the tests to be considered a success. However, it canonically doesn't make sense for Alex Wesker to be a woman, or at the very least fertile, as she would have made the Wesker Project's failure a lie, as she would have had Albert Wesker's children. They were trying to make an elite group of individuals. And if there are 2 living specimens of the Wesker Project, it makes no sense that it was a failure. Canonically, they said it was a failure. But to be honest, Alex Wesker is a MacGuffin who only exists for the nonsensical callback of a story, basically a partial rehash of Code Veronica, having an island of prisoners and a female antagonist, only for Barry, a male, to come and save the day. The only reason anyone would like this game is because we're thirsting for Claire content. And that can easily be quenched with a Code Veronica remake, as I have said previously. The zombies are called the Afflicted, which reminds me so much of The Evil Within, because what it didn't steal from Code Veronica, it stole directly from The Evil Within. Think I'm lying? Let's see the evidence, shall we? Evidence number 1. The Evil Within came out October 14th, 2014. Resident Evil 2 came out February 24th, 2015. Now you might ask, oh, that's only a few months. How could they have possibly have? Yes, they could have. They could have both been working on it, and somebody could have been working in that place and ran back to Capcom and got this fixed. So yes, Capcom does nothing but steal from people. I look in my Resident Evil playlist. I talk about what they've stolen over the years in one of my videos. Link is in the description to that video as well. Evidence number 2, Alex Wesker's real plan is to find someone immune to fear, basically, and to transfer her consciousness into said host. Sounds strangely, eerily familiar to Ruvik's plan to use Leslie to escape death. Doing the exact same thing, basically. Right? Interesting. Evidence number 3, the ambiance and even the saturation of this game looks very, very similar to The Evil Within. There's so much more that I'm not talking about, but those are the obvious ones. Okay? So Claire and Moira eventually meet Natalia, and Claire is made out to be this disconnected, unfeeling human, while the freaking walking nerve Moira seems to move more gently and is a lot more nice to Natalia when they talk to each other. Like, Claire's like, oh, what are you doing? Where are you doing? Like, she's never talked to a child before. Like, you made her some nursemaid and you're gonna make her not a nursemaid in the one time that she's gonna talk to a child? Are you serious? Just makes Claire look stupid and dumb. It's out of character for Moira to even talk to this girl the way she did. So the only connection we get from Revelations 2 to Revelations 1 is that Natalia lost both of her parents in the Terra Grigia attack. That's it. That is it. No flashbacks, no callbacks. We're just supposed to believe she survived alone somehow. Like, we never see Parker help no child out of freaking Terra Grigia. We don't see Ramon help anyone. We don't see Jessica help anyone. We don't see Jill help anyone. We don't see anyone helping Natalia get out of Terra Grigia. How did you get out of a place that was freaking in the middle of the ocean? Did you swim? How? They never talk about survivors, but this girl, this little girl, not even one of her family members survived, but she did. She's immune to water too? Okay. Despite looking very afraid, Natalia is immune to fear due to surviving that terrorist attack, which again, how do you survive being like literally in the middle of the ocean? It basically sunk and then it got burnt. How you survived the burnt, like how you... Someone tell me in the comments if I missed something in one where they're like, oh, we got a handful of survivors. They said almost everyone died, but I didn't think they were going to make the only connection to a sequel some vague thing that they said sometime once in the first game. I'm sorry. That's just dumb. Alex Wesker successfully transmits her consciousness into Natalia and shoots herself. And you know what? It's crazy. She killed off the last Wesker child, as I don't believe this girl is Alex Wesker now, honestly. She thinks she's Alex Wesker. She basically created artificial multiple personality disorder in Natalia. That's what she did. Because I'm telling you right now, if anyone for a second thought that was Alex Wesker, they're going to shoot her. And people could be like, oh, well, you don't have a heart, whatever. Oh, my goodness. So you want some ridiculous, like, freaking power hungry to exist and freaking just keep going into bodies? Like, are you serious? Body snatching people? You're going to let her live. Okay, whatever. Let's get back to that dude that I said in the beginning. That dude I mentioned earlier, his name is Neil Fisher. He's just some boy toy that Claire's talking to who sounds strangely familiar. Like, he sounds like Roger Craig Smith's rendition of Chris, her brother. It's weird. But this dude was a double agent and he's killed and then turned into a monster. He is freaking betrayed by Alex because, of course, never trust a Wesker. This is where you make a choice whether to get the good ending or get the bad ending. This is the choice. Gun falls on the floor. Claire's on the ground. Neil is about to kill her. Your options are one of two. You either allow Claire, who has used a firearm before, who has used a firearm this entire game, to shoot and kill Neil Fisher, or without knowing anything about what happens next, you choose Moira, who has never touched a gun in this entire game, who takes every opportunity in every cutscene to say, I don't touch guns, I don't handle guns. Your choice to save Claire is make her save herself, or trust that Moira is going to pick up that gun and get the job done. Even though she says she doesn't handle guns, she doesn't touch guns, she never touched a gun. We will sooner lose our lives and die in a place than her pick up a gun. Rather than her picking up a gun, she will pick up a stick that breaks on impact. So, based on those choices, which one would you have chosen without knowing the ending? Would you choose the surefire thing to get Claire out of there because you like Claire and you don't care about Moira? Or would you make Moira take the gun and she may or may not shoot the gun? Because we have been told this entire time she'll never shoot a gun ever. Because I chose the logical answer. And every time I choose the logical answer with Capcom, it's always wrong. I got the bad ending. Because I wanted Claire to live. I just knew in my mind that if Moira was given the chance to pick up a gun, she would not. But after that situation, we're told, oh, you're supposed to, like, freaking face your fears or whatever. Like, okay, whatever. My goodness, what a freaking dumb decision to put in your game. So, getting the good ending, having Moira take the gun, even though you would never have known that she doesn't use a gun and she hasn't used a gun, you would never know that she would actually shoot it and actually hit her target. Freaking Claire jumps off a cliff and Moira's stuck in the rubble. She lives with some bum for freaking 6 months. Claire gets rescued and Barry's told that Moira's dead. And Barry's like, I don't think so. So he goes out there and he finds freaking Natalia freaking sitting at the shore because she's a freaking mermaid and she freaking swam out of Terra Grigia. She freaking was about to swim out of there. But then he's like, oh no, you can come with me, even though it was safer for her in the water, apparently, because she can freaking swim from freaking Terra Grigia to freaking safety. So this is Barry's turn. He bumbles and fumbles around, honestly. There really isn't anything of value to happen when you turn into Barry. All Natalia does is just point and crawl under small spaces. We fight a mutated Alex at the end with Barry. Literally, Barry. It's just like the same thing that happened in Code Veronica. We play as Claire. We think it's Claire's game. Chris comes, and then Chris kills the big boss at the end. Female antagonist. It was the same thing. Barry kills the female antagonist. Except cutscene happens and then Claire comes with a freaking bazooka, just like Chris and Sheva had to kill Albert Wesker. She shoots her with the freaking rocket launcher and it would have been so cool. It would have been so awesome. It would have been great. It maybe would have given you an extra point if she didn't say the B word and ruin it. Claire literally calls Alex Wesker the B word. You're killing her. Like, that's all you need to do. Just, you didn't need no one-liner. You're not Leon S. Kennedy. We don't expect you to do one-liners, Claire. But honestly, I did not like that she called Alex Wesker the B word. I hate when they make women say the B word. It happens every time. It's just super annoying. I hate it so much. So the good ending is Natalia is adopted, replacing Polly, freaking Moira's sister that she killed. And now freaking Natalia is Alex now. Moira's alive, and Claire learns that Chris, who at this time is just coming from Resident Evil 5, he's going to China for Resident Evil 6, and we're done. We're done. Now, I already made a video about Revelations 2 and how the story was whack, but let me tell you about my ideas and opinions that still stand to this day, because that was a very long time ago and some of my opinions about a few things have changed. So let me start with my ideas. If Claire had to be damselized for the 10 billionth time and captured, Barry should have been partnered with Jill. Or maybe to keep up with the Code Veronica thievery theme motif, Chris could have came as well. I love the fact that Barry came back. I don't care that Barry came back. I really don't. What I do care about is the fact that Jill and Chris are omitted from this game. And yeah, Chris is somewhere else, but where's Jill? Jill was where? If she just came back from Resident Evil 5, if this is in between Resident Evil 5 and 6, she should be on the ground floor now. She shouldn't be in no freaking hospice. She should be able-bodied. Literally, cut out Natalia altogether. That vague, never proven connection between Natalia and Tergresia is weak and pointless. How'd she leave? She swam. She's a mermaid. I want to let you guys know that we're supposed to believe she is a mermaid. She swam out of Tergresia. Who took her out of Tergresia before? If the sinking didn't kill her, the freaking solar panels that burnt everybody alive on there would have killed her. How did anyone survive at any point? Some people could have been evacuated, yes, but we never get that proven to us. We're just told. And show don't tell. Show don't tell. It still doesn't make it logical to want to body shift into a child who is weak. And literally, if someone knew just a little bit that girl was not Natalia anymore, you could literally kick her and she'd be dead. Literally, you can kick that child and she would be done. But let's talk about my problems with Alex Wesker. Alex Wesker should have wanted to body switch with the capable person with access to undisclosed information. Someone like, Claire? That would have opened the door for Resident Evil Revelations 3 to be about Rebecca and getting Claire back to normal. If they wanted Leon there, it would have worked. It would have worked. Jill is also someone that could have been put in that position. This isn't her first rodeo about getting captured, because every woman must be damselized at least once in this game. Damselized. Jill would have been a good body shifting option, as she is hardened by her experiences. I'm sure she's not afraid of anything anymore, especially going against Nemesis, going against Albert Wesker, jumping out of a freaking building. Let me tell you this, see? For those who did not play Resident Evil Revelations 2, Alex Wesker is, like I said, a MacGuffin, someone who didn't exist until this game. They didn't care. They didn't care what was happening after the game. They didn't care what was happening to her before the game. They did as much as possible before they killed her off and then, quote unquote, body switched her into somebody else. Alex Wesker mentions vaguely her brother. Oh, my brother's exit was death and shall be mine. And all that and jazz and whatnot, whatever, I don't care. Resident Evil 5. Let's talk about that. Jill Valentine's hair, the minerals and whatnot were stripped from her hair, and that's why it's blonde. But guess what? They could have did something with that. What if Albert Wesker was basically creating a super soldier for Alex Wesker to be placed in? And that's why her hair is blonde. Oh, wait. Oh, my goodness. Hold the presses. That sounds all too right. That sounds all too interesting for Capcom to actually even consider. It does. It does. Because Alex Wesker was talking about what he was doing with Ouroboros and whatnot. And what is even the point of two geniuses to be on Earth and them to be like, you know what? Let's near it and let's mellow it from freaking Death Note. And let's do two things that are separate, even though working together actually gets the job done. Like, why would they be that stupid? Literally, I could have made this game for y'all. Y'all have the wrong people on your team. You're giving the wrong people money. You're literally wasting your money. She's bonded with like freaking 3 viruses. She's got like a 3-virus cocktail in her bloodstream. Having Jill and Claire fight Sister Wesker would have been so cool. It would have really made up for the damselization you've done with Jill and Claire. But since that didn't happen, it's still on the board. It's still marked as incorrect. If it wasn't obvious, Moira would not be playable in my Resident Evil Revelations 2, leaving a spot open for Chris because he was in Revelations 1. Mostly everything else would be similar except Neil. Barry would be forced to get Claire and Jill to Alex Wesker, as he was forced, like Albert Wesker forced him to do whatever he wanted in Resident Evil 1. Since they have no original ideas, let's just go full-on callbacks, right? Right? I bet cynics are wondering, how does my version connect to any of the themes of Revelations 1? Well, including Jill alone would give more of a connection than that inclusion of Natalia, who was never talked about, never heard about, or seen before her survival was illogically created. And it's almost impossible, as we never ever get a scene of the survivors. Natalia is an afterthought, honestly. Natalia was an afterthought, honestly, and worthless. Now, let's talk about the 10 things that every Resident Evil needs. Number 1, horror, ambiance, music, sound. Forgettable. It was forgettable. I don't really care about the ambiance. It was dark. Yeah, you can make anything dark and be like, ooh, scary. You have to have more than that to me. I'm sorry. 2, puzzles, mini games, difficulty. Wasn't that difficult at all under any circumstances. What I can say is Alex Wesker was a very hard boss. She's not the hardest boss, but she was hard because she was moving around and I had no ammo. Literally, I ended that game with barely any ammo. Literally using a handgun on her, and it was terrible. It was bad. I had like no ammo. I don't even think I started over, but I did get the bad ending, so it wasn't even worth it. Backtracking, maps, locations. The locations look pretty decent. Again, they're just recreating Rockford Island, kind of. It doesn't look the same. This island and the other island do not look the same under any circumstances. But what I'm saying is they were using that motif. They were using that freaking prison island motif, and they were stealing it from Code Veronica. If Code Veronica didn't exist, they would have to find some other place. They would have to find some other way. It wouldn't have been the same. 4, tyrants, bosses, mini bosses, optional bosses. No optional bosses. Everything you had to fight. The enemies were basically the enemies from The Evil Within. I really didn't care about them. Useless. Alex Wesker's final form reminded me of an elongated Laura from The Evil Within. 5 different perspectives, characters. I hated Moira. I hated the fact that I had more than one gun and she didn't hold not one of them. She would rather pick up a stick off the ground that broke on impact. I hated Moira. I loved that Barry returned, and I hated Natalia. I hated that Alex Wesker was coming out of nowhere, and they didn't even talk about the Wesker program. I'm just really... It's a give and take. It's a give and take. They both null each other out. As much as I wanted to see Barry back in the franchise, I did not want to see Natalia, and I never want to see Moira. 6, zombies, viruses, BOWs. The enemies were terrible. 7, corporations, anti-capitalism, Umbrella Tricell. They create this new TerraSave garbage that is disgusting, and it's just for the weaklings that can't hold guns, apparently, because Moira was in there and she didn't have to hold no weapon. Okay. 8, gameplay, controls, movements of enemies and weapons. Forgettable. 9, continuity. Does it fit in the story? No, it does not. Because Alex Wesker, if she's not going to talk about how infertile she is, or talk about the reason why she exists or where she's been, all we get is a picture of Albert Wesker and Alex Wesker together, and it was a painting. So they didn't even have to be in the same room. Literally, one could have been one time and the other could have been the other time. They only needed the person that painted it to be there. Literally. When painters paint things, they don't have to be there at the same time. 10, overall story. Does it stand alone? No, because it relies too heavily on freaking Code Veronica, when you could have just remade Code Veronica and never even looked at Resident Evil Revelations 2. If they just remade Code Veronica in 2015, it would have been a whole lot better. But no, they didn't. They decided to freaking make this crap that also stole from The Evil Within, which is a far superior game. This game sucks. This game gets a 3 out of 10. That's it. 3 out of 10. That is my final score for Revelations. 3 out of 10, and I will not be taking that back. I will not be adding any points. You're not going to get any cookies for having Claire on here, even though I'm a Claire stan. I'm not going to just give you points because Claire's here. You got to do something better. She was barely Claire. She wasn't Allison Court, and she wasn't acting like Claire. She was acting real strange, and she was damselized. Have a good day. I'm done.